Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get you started on some of your practice problems. So this is our first one. It says k over 2 plus 9 equals 30. So yet again, we're going to take and draw a line down our equal sign to remind us what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. And I am trying to get my variable and whatever's stuck to it by itself. So that means I need to get rid of this plus 9. And I'm going to undo adding 9 by subtracting 9 from both sides. So now these are gone and I still have k over 2. And that equals 30 minus 9 is 21. Okay, so now I do want to keep getting my variable by itself. So I want to get k by itself. So right now, k is being divided by 2. So the opposite of dividing by 2 is multiplying by 2. So I'm going to do that on both sides to cancel this 2. So now I have k on the left, and I have 21 times 2, which is equal to 42. So since this is an equation with an equal sign in it, there is only one answer to our equation. So we are going to put a closed circle or a point at 42. That is how we're graphing it. An open circle would mean that it's not equal to that number, but this is, so please make sure your circle is closed. All right, moving on to the second one. This one has the order a little bit different. Usually you guys are used to seeing our variable first, but it's not. That's okay, nothing changes, all right? So yet again, I'm going to circle my variable and whatever is stuck to it, and I'm going to get rid of everything else on that side of the equal sign, okay? I never touch this 13, I can't touch it because it's by itself already, okay? I'm trying to get the variable by itself. So I have minus 17 or a negative 17, so I'm going to undo that with positive 17. So I'm going to add 17 to both sides. So 3 plus 7 is 10. 1 plus 1 is 2 plus 1 is 3. So now I have 30 and I still have b over 8 because these canceled out. So that was my first step, add or subtract. My second step is always to multiply or divide. So again, I'm circling my variable because I want to get that by itself. So I have to get rid of the 8. Right now it says b divided by 8, so I'm going to undo that division with multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 8. Oh, there's my equal sign. So b is now equal to 30 times 8. Well, 3 times 8 is 24, so 30 times 8 is 240. Again, it's an equal sign, which means 240 is the only possible solution for this equation, so I'm going to put a closed circle or a point at 240. All right, so number 3, this is just a decimal one, so I encourage you to please press pause and try to solve it by yourself first before you peek and see how it should be done. Okay, so I'm sure you drew a line down in your equal sign. And we are trying to get 2e by itself. So I need to get rid of this adding 2.6. So I'm going to subtract 2.6 from both sides. Okay, so anytime I have a negative over here where I'm subtracting a bigger number, I need to write this out from left to right because I don't want to get confused. So I'm saying negative 23 minus 2.6. Guys, this is where most of you will make your mistakes, is with your integer rules, okay? We did these way back at the beginning of the year. We sang that song, same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract. Keep the sign of the biggest one, then you'll be exact, right? So we sing that song. We remember that we cannot subtract with negatives. You don't subtract, you add the opposite. So we do boom, boom, or we draw our 2 lines. So I add the opposite. So now I go to my song and they have the same sign. So I'm going to add them and keep them. But I see a decimal, so I'm going to rewrite this. So I make sure and line it up. I know I need to line up my decimals, but I don't see a decimal in 23. So if there's not a decimal, it's like a period at the end of the sentence, okay? So 23 plus 2.6. I'm going to put a 0 here to make it easier. So 6, 3 plus 2 is 5, and then I have a 2. And I have to keep my sign, same sign, add and keep, okay? So now I have negative 25.6 equals 2e, okay? Now we are set. I canceled those. All right, I have one more step to go ahead and get this e by itself. I already added or subtracted. Next step is multiply or divide. Since it's multiplication right now, I'm going to do the opposite and divide by 2. Divide by 2. So I'm going to go over here and do my math. I have negative 25.6 divided by 2. Well, before I do anything, I don't want to forget, about that negative. So if I have a negative, right, I'm going to go back and think about my tic-tac-toe. Okay, so I have a negative divided by a positive, which means my answer, ding, 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 is negative. So I'm going to go ahead and put my negative sign here so I don't forget. Now I'm going to divide. So 2 divided by 2, so 1 times 2 is 2. I subtract, I get 0, bring down my 5. 2 times 2 is 4. I subtract, I get a 1. Bring down my 6, make sure my decimal point's up there. 2 times 8 is 16. I subtract and get a 0. So my answer is going to be negative 12.8 equals E. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go over here and go to negative 12.8. Okay, guys, I have been absolutely horrible, and I have been skipping a step. All right, it's really important to always check your work. So you need to go back through it, and you need to substitute this back in for E to make sure it's right. So I'm going to do that over here. I'm going to do 2 times negative 12.8 plus 2.6. All right, so 12.8 times 2. 2 times 8 is 16. 4, 5. 1 times 2 is 2. Okay, so I have negative 25.6 plus 2.6. Now, same sign or different sign. I have a negative and a positive, so different sign, so I'm going to subtract. So 25.6 minus 2.6. 6 minus 6 is 0. 5 minus 2 is 3. 2 minus 0 is 2. And I have, keep the sign of the bigger one, so negative 23. That is correctamundo. So make sure that you did all of your substitution and you're checking your answers to get your credit today. All right, and last example one that I am going to do with you, because you guys are rock stars now, and I know you can do these by yourself. Again, draw your line down your equal sign. Go ahead and press pause and give it a try. All right, so you should have gotten rid of that adding 12 by subtracting 12. Yet again, I have negatives here, and that's confusing, so I'm always going to write it out from left to right to prevent myself from making mistakes. So I don't subtract with negatives, you add the opposite. So now, same sign, add and keep. So 12 plus 7 is 19, and I'm going to keep my sign. So I have negative 19, and I still have C over negative 6. Okay. So now, again, I want to get my C by itself. So it says I'm dividing by negative 6. I'm going to do the opposite, and I'm going to multiply by negative 6. So I'm going to do 19 times negative 6. 9 times 6 is 54. 6 plus 5 is 11. So I have C equals 114. Let me check my sign. Okay. Positives going across here, and I had a negative times a negative. My answer was positive, so it's positive 114. So I'm going to go ahead and graph it, but wait, there's more. Okay, I'm not done yet, so I'm going to check my answer and make sure I'm right. So I have 114. I'm plugging it back in for my variable over negative 6 plus 12, okay? So I'm going to divide 114 by 6. 1 times 6 is 6. 11 minus 6 is 5. I have 54. 9 times 6 is 54. I get a 0. And I divided by a negative, so it's a negative 19 plus 12. Same sign or different sign. Different sign, subtract, so 19 minus 12 is 7. And it is a negative because that's the bigger one. So yes, it is correct. All right, so flip the paper over and you're on your own. You can check your work as well with your Excel document or your GoFormative. Okay? All right, best of luck.